free minimum dose powerlifting program from the real doctor himself, just for you. Yes, we're bringing it back. Dr. Pack here, real doctor, just finished a 3-hour open bypass heart surgery. Went horribly because I had no idea how to do it. I'm not sure why they let me in. I did say I'm a doctor. It's their fault for not knowing what a real doctor is. Hey ho, RIP to the poor guy on the operation table. You were a real one and I apologize. I did let him know about some of our new studies and the literature on minimum dose training, so I hope his last moments were filled with joy. Joking aside, I am here with a free minimum dose powerlifting template that you can download and make super duper minimum dose gains and actually get your squat, bench and deadlift to go up, get your powerlifting total to keep climbing even during periods where things are hectic or where your recovery resources are limited. I have partnered with Boostcamp and we have the program on their app, so you can have it on your phone without downloading the awkward sheet I've made, which is available at minimumdosetraining.com, and actually track your workouts while you're lifting, and in general, just enroll, give it 5 stars, comment, and say how it's the best thing that has ever happened to you. But let's get to the program. Actually, before we do that, a little bit of background. I did my PhD on the minimum effective training dose for powerlifting, specifically doing a bunch of studies from intervention studies where we got lifters to actually follow some of the protocols, which have directly informed this protocol, to also interviewing world-class powerlifters and coaches about the concept of the minimum dose. The minimum effective dose for powerlifting specifically is an area of research that is very dear to me, and I have interacted with a lot of high-level lifters who have had a chance to experiment with this sort of training concept. So, without further ado, let's take out the phone and look at the program. Keep in mind, this is a simple 6-week program that doesn't change from week to week, but I will give you a few tips on how you can modify based on your personal preference. However, let's get right into it. So, this is a 3-day program with a 4th day being as optional, which you can do whatever you like on that day. Keep in mind, this is meant for people that are pressed for time and may not have the recovery resources available in order to actually bang out proper long powerlifting sessions. So that's the context. Now, if you're not a powerlifter and you still care about SPD strength, this program is totally fine for you. You don't necessarily need to be a powerlifter to run this. You could run it even if you're just your general, SBD enthusiast that goes to the gym and has never competed. So, starting with session 1, we have back squat as our first exercise, and that would be your competition squat. Ideally, all the lifts that you do should be your competition lifts because you're only going to be doing a few lifts per week, but it's really not the end of the world if you choose to do, let's say, a high bar squat versus a low bar squat if low bar is your competition stance. So we start with a single at RPE 9 to 9.5. Keep in mind, this will be a daily max single. Although the evidence on proximity to failure and strength shows you do not need to go that close to failure in order to maximize strength gains, and going a bit further away from failure may be best. In the context of minimum dose training, we don't have any direct evidence looking at lower RPE work and just a handful of sets per week. And the thinking here is that by doing a daily max single, you are being super specific with your training. You're essentially getting better and better at doing heavy singles and mimicking the requirements of a powerlifting competition. Thus, the selection of an RPE 9 to 9.5 single. Staying closer to the 7 to 8 RPE range may be preferable, and that's totally fine for you to do so, but you'll have to make some slight adjustments if you decide to deviate from the RPE range that has been prescribed. And that's why I've prescribed 80% of the single, which is similar to what we did in our studies, in the form of 2 back-off sets of 3 reps following the single. So you hit your single, you lift whatever you lift, you take 80% of that, and then you do a triple at an RPE of 7 to 9. Now, if you see that 80% is too heavy, and you are unable to hit a triple at RPE 7 to 9, or it's too light, adjust the percentage as needed. go 85%, add a bit more weight. But don't necessarily take the 80% as absolute gospel. If you decide to modify the RPE for the top singles, then that's where you'll probably need to increase the back off percentage by a substantial amount. So if you hit your single at RP 7 to 8, you may need to go 90-95% of that single and then do triples so that you have 2 triples at an RP 7 to 9. Moving on, we have the bench press. Now on the bench press, we have the exact same concept, but instead of just the top single and the 2 back off triples, we then have 90% of the single as a back off single. So you're doing a heavy daily max single, then taking 90% of that, doing another single, and then taking 80% of the first single and doing 2 triples. Thankfully, I am addressing powerlifters, so this is all super understandable for you. This is one of those rare moments where I can be like, I can say the things exactly as I've laid them out without explaining too much, and my fellow powerlifters or SBD enthusiasts will understand. If you do not understand anything, please comment below and I'll be happy to help. Now, I understand that many of you necessarily want to just do SBD without any sort of accessory work, so I have 2 optional slots below the 2 main exercises for you to do some hypertrophy work or accessory SBD work in the form of a single set at 6 to 12 reps at 9 to 10 RPE. Keep in mind that going to 10 RPE is not necessary for maximizing hypertrophy, but in the context of minimum dose training, it may make sense for you to hit failure just to make sure that you're getting the most out of that set. Now, moving on to the second day. The second day is essentially the exact same day as the first one, but instead of the squat, now we have the deadlift. So we have deadlift, top single, back of triples, and then the same exact setup with the bench press and the accessories. The same adjustments that I've mentioned for the first day also carry on to the second day. If you want to slightly change the top single RPE and then modify the percentages, feel free to do so. And last but not least, the last day is essentially the same exact day as the first day, where you do squat and then you do your bench and then you do your accessories. There's an optional 4th day where you can do literally whatever you want, but I assume that if you're looking for a minimum effective training dose protocol, you are likely not somebody who wants to do even more training. Keep in mind that with this sort of protocol, you should expect to make solid gains in 6 to 12 weeks. I would recommend running this for 6 weeks as it's intended, seeing where you're going, seeing how you're progressing in the gym, because your daily max singles will be a good indication of whether things are going well or not. If you want, after 6 weeks, take a few days off, test your SBD strength, see how things feel, and then decide whether you want to keep running it or if you want to skip the testing at 6 weeks and extend the protocol by another 6 weeks. That's totally fine. Just be mindful with your expectations. I would advise you to check at 6 weeks, see how things are feeling, and then take it from there. Worst case scenario, you've hit a couple of mini PRs and then you jump back on it. I do think that you can run this for a few months and make solid gains, but there will come a point where you will need to add volume, especially as a high-level competitive powerlifter. Things though are not that difficult there. So if you've ran this program for a few weeks, for let's say 6 to 8 weeks, and you're now feeling like you've plateaued, sessions feel way too easy, way too manageable, and you have time and energy to do a bit more, just add an extra set, add an extra triple, add an extra couple of sets on your accessory work. And that's about it. Start with the very basic skeleton, and as time progresses, make slight adjustments. Change the competition squat on one day to a squat variation. Add an extra set here and there. Play around with the back of rep ranges. You can be very flexible if you're training long-term using this sort of protocol. Don't take it as gospel. And there you have it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, minimum dose powerlifting protocol for all of you guys out there who may be powerlifters or SBD enjoyers. Give it a go. Make sure to use the link in the description to download it either from the website minimumdosetraining.com if you like using a Google Sheet for whatever reason, but I would recommend using the Boostcamp app so you can make your life easier, so you can have it on your phone. And please feel free to leave some feedback in the comments or ask any questions. I'm sure that aside from myself, there are other people that can share their experiences with these sort of minimum dose protocols. With that said, I've kept things serious, so I'll keep the outro serious. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification icon, and then hit also the PR bell at your local gym when you PR your squat, bench, and deadlift after 6 weeks of running this protocol. Terms of conditions apply. All-time PR is not guaranteed. I'm not a real doctor. I am an actual doctor. I am a real doctor. I messed it up there. Orestis, edit that out. Peace!